What's up, everybody?
Hello, everybody.
Tuesday. Nope, not Tuesday.
It's Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Don't go backwards.
Man, that's crazy, ain't it? Tabby, what's good?
Hi, Tabby.
What's up? Thank you for joining. Thank you for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Those of you who are on and watching, as we do every week, we ask you to share it. Just take a second to hit the share button. I'm not asking you to do something that I'm not doing.
Your voice cracked.
Did it? Oh, yeah.
You choked up?
I did, a little bit. A little bit. It's important to me. You know what I mean? It's important to me that you share it, so I'm going to go ahead and share it a couple places. It's Thursday, so those of you who are normally with us, you know what time it is. It's time for Thursday night Convo. This is a conversation about all things relationships. All things relationships. Nothing is off limits. Everything can be brought to the table. That's just how it is. That's just what we're doing. And so tonight is no different. We bookend this every Thursday by showing you a tool that we have created. Yep, Tab, you finally made it. That's what's up. You finally made it. We bookend it every week with a tool that we have created. That tool is none other than the Have a Conversation Couples Journal. That Have a Conversation Couples Journal is basically a tool that allows you to craft conversations, write down talking points. You and your spouse share. I got one sitting here. You and your spouse share the journal. It allows you to craft some conversations. And
so what?
I don't know. I'm mumbling and jumbling.
What's wrong with you today?
You also get to see some excerpts of our journal entries. We put in 12 topics that couples typically have conversations about, and you also have room to add your own. So we just urge you, if you haven't already, to pick that up. You see at the bottom of your screen, denali.org/shop. You can get it on Amazon, get it on Barnes and Noble. So grab that. All right. So Thursday night. Last week I talked about how I was feeling, right? Just as it relates to just everything, just
everything that's going on.
Yeah, everything that's going on, George Floyd situation and just life in general, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to we'll end our time with that. But okay. I want to start off the conversation. Share this. Again, I'm going to say share this if you haven't shared it already. Because I really want people's input on this one in particular.
Okay.
All right. So we've been married we're coming up on 20 years in a couple months. Mm-hmm. Right. I want you to think about and play out this scenario for me. 20 years in, and you find out today that I had an affair.
Had.
I had an affair, but it was recent. Let's call it within the last 12 months. Mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. It's not ongoing. So I'm gonna set up the scenario. It's not ongoing. Mm-hmm. It has been dissolved completely. Like there's all loose ends tied up. But you find out now in our 20th year mm-hmm. that in our 19th year mm-hmm. this happened. What's that conversation look like?
Oh, God forbid that ever happens. But, I don't know. You would have to deal with, I guess, my anger at first, my hurt, my disappointment. So I don't know what the conversation would look like, because when you're in the moment, you don't know really what you're going to say to something like that.
I'm listening to you. I'm just going to type the question out just so people can see it.
But I think that the human side of me and the vulnerable female side of me would probably first be like, well, who is it?
Mm-hmm.
Do I know her? That, those kinds of questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then why?
Okay.
I think that's what I would say.
Hold that thought for a second. Is anything spelled incorrectly?
I can't. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that right now that's what I'm saying I would say. That's how I would start it.
Okay.
That's how the conversation would start.
So you would want to know who?
I think most females would want to know who it is.
Okay.
I think. Don't you think? Would guys? Do you think? Well, would you?
I don't know if I would want
really.
to know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not. Go ahead.
I think that I would most likely go there first.
Okay. And what would that? What does that do for you? Knowing that piece of information, what does that do for you?
I don't know what it would. Probably more harm than good, honestly. But I think that it's just where females go when that happens. Okay. It's probably not. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think that's just where females go. What?
But Elizanne said, yes, we want to know who.
Yeah.
Why? Tell me why, Elizanne. Why do you want to know who? I'm not saying that I would not want to know who. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying I don't know that I'm not necessarily going there first. I think maybe for me personally, the first thing would be just maybe what I felt about it. So if I was hurt, disappointed, angry, frustrated, whatever those initial emotions are.
Yeah, I think for me the two would go probably side by side. I can't imagine even being very rational or coherent, honestly.
So what you're saying, the answer to that question is that because it says, what does that conversation look like? So it would be irrational.
I think some of it might be.
What's wrong with this mouse? Some of it might be irrational.
Some of it might be.
Even though
it's ended, yes.
Even though it's ended,
yes.
And we're talking up to 12 months out,
yes,
or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So, let's say we've gotten past the irrational part of that conversation. Mm-hmm. Where does it go after that?
I think I would tell you that you would need to reassure me that it's over. Mm-hmm. And we would have to sit down and you would have to I can't think of the words, but you would have to, I would give you my, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say demands, but that's not the word. But how I would need things to be going forward, because you would have to regain my trust. Okay. And so whatever that looked like for me, that would be, I guess, the next conversation as to how what I would require from you or what I would need from you going forward.
Would our marriage end over it?
After 20 years? Probably not, no.
Why not?
Because it's ended, and because the relationship has ended, the affair has ended, number one. Just so many years invested and so much invested for that to have been a short period of time. And it happened for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most likely. And so we'd have to get to the bottom of that and work on that. That's what I say now, you know.
Okay. Those
All
of you
of
that
that
are
sounds great. And I think that's what I would do.
okay.
But
Those of you that are watching, 20 year, let's say you're married for 20 years. Does your marriage end over this? Yes or no? I want to see what.
someone said it would be demands.
Yeah, I put that up there just now. The how many people? 11 people. Shows 11 people are watching. So those 11 people, I want you to tell me in the comments. Just be honest, would you dissolve your marriage? We've been married coming up on 20 years. Would you dissolve your 20-year marriage for infidelity?
Would you?
No.
What would be your what what would you say? Like, what would the conversation be like for you? So if I said that to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had an affair with this person. It was just within the last 12 months. It has ended. It has absolutely ended. There's no chance of it ever happening again. You said that you would tell me that how hurt you are.
Yeah, I think my initial thing would be whatever my initial feelings are. So if I'm angry, if I'm frustrated, if I'm whatever that initial emotion is, that's what's going to come out in the beginning, right? What I think I'm going to want to know more than who the person is why.
Yes, and that's why I said for me those two things would probably in the conversation be combined. Who is it and why?
Okay. Mary said it would be a done deal for me.
Wow. Okay.
The trust factor is gone.
So do you think, Mary, for you, would that never be able to be regained? The trust? And for some people, hey, that it is what it is. That it is like that.
Donnie, what's good, man? Yeah, 20 years, man. That's a blessing from God. He kept us
Sure did.
through some things, man. It's 20 years in September coming up. But I think that's where I would go, right? So more than who it is, I would want to know why. And the why would be because we're coming up on 20 years. So we've gone this whole span of time.
And gone through so much.
What went awry that caused you to be comfortable enough to do that?
Yeah.
Right? To answer the question, would it be a done deal for me? No, it would not be a done deal for me for the same reason. It's been 20 years. There has been a lot of investment. I feel like it's easier, and I'm using that word very loosely. I feel like it's easier to fix this than to build something else. So if you think about it, you live in a house, right? The house has a terrible leak, which we've experienced, right? We've experienced a terrible leak where it's literally raining water from the upstairs to the downstairs, right?
Within the last 12 months.
We've experienced that, right? It is easier at this point in our lives to fix that issue than to buy another home.
Yeah.
Or build one from scratch.
Yeah.
Right? So that, for me, would be the rationale why after 20 years. Now, if it's after 2 years, that's probably a very, very different conversation. Because 2 years, in 2 years, we have not even begun to fuse the bond that you need to go long term. So that would be a different conversation. But 20 years, I don't know. Man, Donnie, 2 weeks left. how can we we got to get together. We got to figure it out. I don't know what we got to do. FaceTime. We got to do something. Because 2 weeks can't go by and we don't see you guys' faces, man. That's going to be
sad, happy.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem for us. It's not going to be a problem for y'all because this is a beautiful experience that you guys are going through. We've been following. But those of us who will miss you, definitely let's figure something out. I'm going to shoot you a text and we can figure out how we can work this out. Let's see what we got. What are folks saying about this? Mary said it would stay in my mind, even though I love the person, I wouldn't be healthy. I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. And to speak to that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're fast forwarding way past the conversation.
Even with the reconciliation, it would stay in my mind.
Right. And that's where we would probably have to we'd have to go to counseling.
Definitely.
Because if we decide, fast forward through all the series of conversations that we would have, if we decide it's better to fix this than it is to tear it down and go rebuild somewhere else, we would need somebody to fix it.
Oh, definitely.
Like you would have to bring a plumber in to fix the situation in your house, right? So yes, I agree with what Mary said. It would most certainly linger. Is this on your phone? That's too small for me to read.
I'll go to the other. What is it?
I would leave the marriage. If someone loves you, they wouldn't cheat on you.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I'm gonna tell you why I don't agree, but I'm gonna tell you why I don't agree. If someone loves you, they wouldn't cheat on you. I don't think the relationship will still be the same. How do I trust them afterward? And trust is a big issue. Agreed. Trust is a big issue. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But yes, trust is a big issue. Let me see what Elizanne says. It was 25 years into my marriage with 3 affairs.
And the last one was when I found the evidence, and the last one was still in play. We are heading into 28, and trust is taking a long time to rebuild, but we are still together with counseling. Yeah.
I commend you for that. Because here's the thing, right? We're talking about what the conversation would be like, right? The conversation is going to be very different in the scenario that I posed than if you found out that I had 3 affairs and the third one is still ongoing.
Yeah.
That's a very different conversation.
Very different. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I commend you all for attempting to keep it together and going to counseling and doing what you need to do for that, because that is a very different scenario than what I just described.
Yep.
Right?
Tana said, it's not a leak for me. The house is on fire for me.
Oh, wow. That's deep. That's deep.
That is deep.
So
if the house is on fire, you have to leave the house.
Yeah. And if the leak is bad enough, you may have to leave the house as well.
Yeah.
But leaving the house, as in a fire, if the fire does not burn your house to the ground, that's a tough one because fire displaces you regardless.
Right.
Right? So fire displaces you regardless. But here's what happens. You have a choice. Do we go to a hotel, which in my mind would be the equivalent of counseling, like extensive counseling, because you might be in a hotel forever. Not forever, but for a very long time. And while you're there, you have to make that determination. Are we rebuilding on this spot or are we done with that spot?
And is that what you mean, Tana, as far as the analogy, or do you mean the house is on fire, I'm out, like I'm burning the house down?
That's a very different conversation. If you're going left eye on folks, that's different. You get out. Donnie said, do you come back? Yeah. And see, that's my thing with the whole, and here's a great question, Donnie. If it destroyed the foundation, Right? Now, how much would it take as it relates to affairs are concerned to destroy the foundation?
Yeah. And I think that would be that would be relative to each relationship.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
I agree. Holly said you can, but in the mindset, but be in the mindset to heal. Okay. Repair and rejuvenate the marriage to make it better. And here's the thing, right? This is where it's going to get controversial. Maybe. Let me go back to, I think it was, let me scroll up. I think it was Mary? I think it was Mary that said, I can't remember who it was. Somebody said if the person loved you, they would not cheat, right? So I disagree with that. I'm going to tell you why I disagree with that. I disagree with that because cheating is not the disease itself. Cheating is a symptom or byproduct of something else, right? You and I can love each other dearly, but because we have not learned how to do certain things correctly, we have these voids.
Yeah.
And these voids can cause us to, if you open yourself up to germs, so to speak, you have a void that opens yourself up to germs. Those germs can then get in and cause something to happen.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that there are situations where people are just selfish and purposely out to hurt folk, and they're just being greedy. Like, I have everything I need at home, 100% of everything I need at home. I just want more.
Yeah.
That's a totally different scenario. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the folks who we just don't know how to communicate right. I really want to be vulnerable with you, and I can't. So that's a void. I need more physical intimacy, more sex, and it's not happening. That's a void, right? And those voids create gaps for things to come in and distract.
Yeah.
So I don't always necessarily feel like if you cheat on me, it's because you don't love me. Whereas that could be the case. I don't know that that's always the case. So that's why I said I disagree. Let's go back to these. So because I don't want to. Tana
answered again.
Okay.
She answered. Her response was, for me.
Go ahead.
For me, it's deeper than just a leak. That's just for me. It's no longer a question of repair. It requires rebuilding, which requires a different type of effort.
True.
Yeah.
But
would be.
But is it worth it? Is it worth it to rebuild? I think is the real question. I don't know that the question is, do you want to rebuild or not?
Or repair. I mean, I guess that depends on
And that depends on the person.
Yeah.
Right. Me personally.
You don't want to go through the effort of rebuilding.
I'm not doing that. Not after 20 years. I believe that I would like to start out by believing that this is repairable.
Okay.
I would just like to start out by doing that because I've been with you for 20 years. I do not want to learn nobody else.
Yeah.
I just don't want to go through that. And it's not like a cop out or a settle in my mind. That's not what I'm doing, because that's what it sounds like, truth be told. That I'm just settling and I'm just going to stay in something that is unhealthy because I don't just have the energy to do anything else. I don't believe that one affair is necessarily a sign of a dying marriage. I think it's a sign that there are some deficiencies that need to be dealt with. If you catch a cold, yes, there are some people who will die from a cold. Typically, you're not going to. It's just some deficiencies. We need some vitamin C. We need some rest. We need that crazy concoction you just made about an hour ago.
Yeah.
We need that.
Yeah.
Right. And once we get all of those things in play, then we'll be okay. Right. So I don't know. That's just, I don't know, but I want to know what you guys think. So keep it coming. Keep it coming.
So Elizan asked the question, do you believe midlife crisis is a cause? It could be, I think.
I missed that.
I think it could be. Do you believe midlife crisis is a cause? Because I think that midlife crises happen because of, and I don't know, but I think it happens because of maybe uncertainty about where you are in life and what's going on, like an insecurity type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, maybe you seek what you feel like you're not getting at home to validate. I don't know.
Yeah. So here, the quick answer to that question, I think, is yes.
Mm-hmm.
But again, a midlife crisis is the culmination of some other things. Right? I don't feel like I'm at the place in my life where I should be at 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the amount of money that I should have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, the girls aren't, whistling at me in the mall anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, it's the culmination of all of that, right? That's what you got to dig into, because if that leads you to an affair, as opposed to going to buy a $90,000 car, there's some issues there, right? Because your midlife crisis, typically, when you think about men going through a midlife crisis, there's something that they're going to do to boost whatever the void is that's causing the midlife crisis.
Right.
So if the void that's causing the midlife crisis has to do with whether it be lack of sex or not feeling wanted, or something that's going to put you into the arms of another person, those are the things I feel like have to be dealt with. So yes is the quick answer to that question, but I think that there's a lot to it there.
Mary says that she thinks it's just an excuse.
I mean, it depends on the person, though.
Yeah.
Donnie said, do you make a difference? And I'll talk about that in a second. Do you think it makes a difference if a woman cheats versus a man cheating?
Makes a difference how? Makes a difference how, as far as the possibility of reconciliation, or I don't know. Makes a difference how?
Yeah. Explain that. I'm gonna tell you what I thought when I saw that. Is there, because we live in a world of double standards.
Yeah.
Right. So there are some things that, as a society, we may come down harder on you for than we come down harder on me for. Right. So it's the difference between you sleeping with 10 guys and being called a hoe, and me sleeping with 10 women and I'm the man.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I thought about, but I don't know if that's where Donnie was going. But if that's where he was going, then the answer for me is yes. And he said, yeah, the double standard. So yeah, I do think it makes a difference.
Okay.
I do. I also think that.
Wow, it's funny that the both of you were thinking that, because that wasn't how I took that.
How'd you take it?
I just took it as infidelity, like not the woman sleeping with 10 guys or versus the man sleeping with 10 guys and how it's viewed. I didn't take it that way. I just took it as, but both of you guys as men took it that way. That's interesting. Because
I think there's if we had to be 100% honest, there is an underlying, I'm going to call it code, if you will, that allows for me to be, how people make the excuse, you hear people make the excuse, guys sometimes make the excuse that monogamy is, we're not made for monogamy, right? And so there's kind of this thing where our appetite cannot be satisfied with one scenario. But that code doesn't apply to you as a woman, right? And it's based on our ideologies, I believe. This is my personal opinion. It's based on the ideologies behind how we look at men and women, right? There's a nurturing component to you. There is a mothering component to you. There is a helpmeet and a supportive component to you, right? Which doesn't leave room for you to be promiscuous. There is a kill and conquer
macho
component,
macho.
Right? To me, there is a pursuit, component to me, all of which lend their hands to me, hoarding, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't really explain it right, but that, that's what I'm thinking. Let's see what we got. I agree. There is a double standard. When a woman cheats, it's all
over.
done. It's all, yeah.
Over.
Is that what that says? Over?
Yes. But when a man does, he still didn't go get no glasses.
No. That's not. She must have put it on there twice.
Oh.
She put it on there twice. That's the one. Let me put up the one.
Oh, yeah. Maybe you both need glasses.
I'm about to say, I know that does not say over. It's not that bad yet. It's bad, but it ain't that bad yet.
Gosh.
So, and Donnie said that's exactly what I was thinking. So
it's very interesting.
So going back, right, to our scenario, right? Let's fast forward through this conversation. So we have gone through the stages. We've gone through the anger stage and what that conversation looks like. We've gone through the explanation stage and what that conversation looks like. We've gone through the determination stage, meaning, is this done, or, what's the next steps, right? So we determine the next steps are, we're going to stick around. We're going to make this work. We're going to go to counseling. And I'm saying all this for a reason, because a lot of folk talked about trust, right? So now we're fast forward through all of those different conversations that we've had, because if you're going to, because this is all about having conversation. That's what this Thursday night is about. If you're going to decide that you're going to go through and try to fix it, those are all the types of conversations you're going to have. You're going to have that anger conversation, or that emotional, whatever the emotion is, initial conversation. You're going to have the explanation conversation where you expand on the details. You're going to have the conversation that is wrapped up under the umbrella of determination. Is this done? Is it not done? What's going to happen if you decide it's done? That takes you down another road of conversation. If you decide it's not going to be done, that takes you down a different road, right? If you decide you're going to stay, there's some conversations you got to have as it relates to counseling and all of that kind of stuff, right? So here we are in counseling, right? As it relates to building trust. Because trust, here's the thing about trust, and we say this, some of you have probably heard us say this before, but I'm going to say it again. Trust is like a 100-story building. And that 100-story building, you can put some charges, you can put a few charges in there. You could bring that 100-story building down in 30 seconds. Just as trust between us, a couple little instances, a couple little situations and scenarios can tear down trust immediately between us. You cannot, however, rebuild that 100-story building in 30 seconds. I don't care what contractor you get. No one is that good. So what happens during that process? What does that conversation look like? We're trying to reestablish trust now. We're 20 years in. We're trying to reestablish what was torn down by that incident. What does that conversation look like?
I don't know. I think you would have to give me those reassurances, like when you leave, when you're coming back. And, I hate to be that way, but because I wasn't that way before and the affair happened, now I'm going to need all of that stuff, I think. When you're coming back, I'm going to need you to, contact me every now and then when you're out. I'm here. I'm there. Why are you laughing?
I just got to go back because I was listening to what you're saying, but I saw Donnie's comment. I saw your comment, Donnie.
Something about vision,
100 yards out is a deer. I saw it.
That will forever be hilarious.
Hey, that's going to be the joke of all time.
Forever be hilarious.
So, all right. So let me see. Let me see. Let me put this up what Mary said. So what happens when you stay?
Then you cheat because the other one did. I've seen this a lot.
So have we. Matter of fact, shameless plug. Well, it's not a shameless plug because I plug it at the end of the show anyway. On our podcast, Trade Secrets, if you're not subscribed to that podcast, I suggest you subscribe. And it's not about subscribing to listen to us. The guests are phenomenal. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. So I'm saying all that to say, one of our guests experienced that. So we have a guest that tells their story about, and I don't even want to give it away. It's just so good. But that happened.
Yeah.
And when I say that happened, it's way bigger than just that sentence.
Yeah.
And they're still together. Mm-hmm. But I think what has to happen, right, is there has to be when you decide that you want to stay, here's what you're signing up for. And tell me what you think about this. When you decide you're going to stay, here's what you're signing up for. You're signing up for a deep dive within yourself.
What do you mean?
As it relates to how you deal with conflict, as it relates to how quickly you become vulnerable again, how quickly you trust again, how much you hold back the temptation for revenge and to be spiteful. That's a lot of self-work, right? I feel like that's what you're signing up for on one side of the coin. On the other side of the coin, you're signing up to be all of those things in a positive way for the other person. That's not easy work.
No, it's not.
Right?
It's not.
So I think you're signing up for something, and I'm not saying that it can't be done. There are countless guests that have come on our podcast that prove that it can be done. Elizanne is proof that it can be done. They're in counseling now, right? So,
I don't.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a lot of hard work. Mary says, I really don't believe. Oh no, Elizanne said that. But before Mary said, so what happens when you stay, then you cheat because the other one did. I've seen that a lot. It's a terrible way to live on autopilot. It's no way to live. I agree 100%. However, I don't believe that is always what happens. I don't think that inevitably happens. It does happen, but I don't think that if there's infidelity, that is just inevitably going to happen if you try to rebuild. Just my opinion.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
And then Elizanne said, I really don't believe that trust could ever be rebuilt. You learn to coexist, but total trust can never come back. Wow.
I disagree with that.
I mean, she's living it though.
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying
that
me personally,
be the case for you.
Here's what I believe. I believe that in some cases it will take a long, long time. Mm-hmm. If I am building a birdhouse, if I'm rebuilding a birdhouse, it's going to be a lot shorter than if I'm rebuilding a mall.
Yeah.
And you just got to decide if you are in the scenario where you're rebuilding a mall, are you willing to go through the process?
I think it's like Elizanne said, it is hard work. And
it is hard work.
I imagine that it is. And
yep.
Yeah, I imagine that it is. And it's not to say that rebuilding trust is easy. Because it's going to always be, when your spouse is not at home and you've experienced infidelity, I imagine that it would always be in the back of your mind when they're not physically in front of your face. And even when they are, I imagine that is always in the back of your mind. So
I agree.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
That I imagine. And that would probably take an emotional toll after a while, I would think.
I believe it would. And here's the truth of the matter. You just have to decide if that's what you're willing to do or not. That's
what you're willing to do. Some people are and some people are not.
Exactly.
And I don't fault either one of them.
And I agree. I think it's just a matter of, when you look at the blueprint, if we're talking about rebuilding trust, right? If you look at the blueprints and you're like, this is going to take 10 years to construct. Do I want to put in 10 years? Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same as with any other building, right? Think about Foundry Row down the street. How long that took to come to fruition, mm-hmm. based on a lot of things, right? They were having issues with permits, and they were having issues with the previous owners of the land, and just all of these things just start coming up.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in your relationship. You have to just determine, am I in it for the long haul when I look at these plans and I see that the plans are going to take X amount of time? You know, I'm talking about me personally, in the original scenario that I posed, mm-hmm. I don't believe that ending it would be the answer.
Okay.
You ready to go? See? This one right here, man. So y'all, some of y'all don't know the joke. I'm gonna tell you the joke, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna tell you the joke. Let me tell you how you know when this one is ready to go. Okay? And you might have missed it. So you may have to go back and go back to this point and listen. Whenever this one is ready to go, she says, okay. And it's a special kind of okay. It's like, okay.
No, it's not.
It's just like that. It's not okay. It's okay. That's how you know. So we're done. This conversation is over. And you got to know your spouse, right? I can't even get upset about that. I just know her. I know that's how she is. I know that there's some limitations to what she's.
We've been talking about this for too long.
But sometimes you got to talk about it, right? Sometimes you got to talk about it.
Yeah.
This is an important topic. And for some people, this is their everyday conversation during their rebuilding process, right? So they got to know how to do it. And they got to, put in the work that it takes to do it. But I'm gonna go with you're okay, and I'm gonna go on and wrap it up with you're okay. But let me just say this before I go. I'm just gonna reiterate what I said. You heard our opinions about that, right? And our scenario is very different from the scenario I posed was very different from a lot of people's scenario. We were talking about one affair 12 months ago, year 19. It's now year 20. And how we would go about that, right? Everybody's situation is different. And I can't tell you what you should do and what you should not do.
Absolutely.
The only thing that I can admonish that you do is have the series of conversations that you need to have to get you to the place where you feel like you should be. Mm-hmm. Whatever those conversations are, right? To tie up loose ends if you're leaving, to create a strategy if you're staying, whatever it is, you have to have those conversations. What did Elizanne say? Elizanne said
the person had to realize that they destroyed the building and it will take as long to rebuild.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a determination that every person has to make. And I encourage you to have those conversations. I encourage you not to hold in feelings. The more you hold in stuff, we did a video about this where I likened resentment to blowing up a balloon, right? You blow the balloon up, Something happens, you don't let the air out. That's resentment, right? You keep something else happens, you keep it in, something else happens, and the balloon gets bigger and bigger and bigger. One of two things happen. The balloon pops, and that's it. It's a wrap. Once the balloon pops, you can't blow that balloon up again. It's done. Or you lose control of the balloon, you let it go, and it starts, you know how a balloon goes when it's flying all over the place. Now you are in danger of hurting yourself and the other folk that might be around that balloon. They get a piece of that hurt as well. So don't hold the stuff in. Have the conversations. Talk about your feelings. Bring in a mediator. Go to counseling if you need somebody to unpack those feelings. Whatever you have to do. All I'm saying is have those conversations.
Yeah.
And we bookend it every week with this. We've created a tool to help facilitate some of those conversations. And that tool is the Have a Conversation. Man, why is my mouse acting up? Have a Conversation Couples Journal. And you can get that on Amazon. You can get that on our website, denali.org/shop. You can get that on Barnes and Noble. So with that, we out of here. Yeah, that's all I got to say, I guess. Just wanted to pose that question to some folk because here's a reason why. Last sentence. We know and we've heard that coming out of this COVID-19 experience, many individuals, their first stop coming out of this COVID-19 experience is divorce court.
Yeah, mercy.
And the only reason that it has not happened is because some of the courts have been closed. And so they have not been able to follow through with what they've already started. Right. And so that just got me to thinking. Yeah. Because there's a lot more people going through this than we know. Right. And so just wanted to put that out there. Have the conversations that you need to have. So every Thursday, we're here. Thursday Night Convo, talking about all things relationships. Nothing is off the table. Every Tuesday, I won't even put the stuff up. I'll just say it real quick. Every Tuesday, short tips for a long marriage on social media, on our website, and on YouTube. And typically on Fridays, we haven't posted one in a while. And maybe we'll talk about that next week, why we haven't, because that's what I was going to wrap up the conversation. But what's the name of it? Trade Secrets. Trade Secret. If you haven't checked out that podcast, you need to check out that podcast.
But Elizanne's comment said, but some it has brought them closer. Yep.
That's exactly right.
The podcast that you were referring to, that happened for them.
Yeah. Let me tell you, Elizanne, if you haven't inboxed me, I'm going to tell you. Well, no, I can tell you right now what podcast it is. It is the podcast with Derek and Janice Parker. If you go to Trade Secrets Podcast, look for the episode with Derek and Janice Parker.
Is it Trade Secrets or have it?
It's Trade Secrets.
Trade Secrets, okay.
Look for that episode, Derek and Janice Parker. That is, when I say that story, just had us with amazing. Just our mouths open, like, wow.
Their story is amazing.
You probably could get through anything.
A very beautiful ending.
Very beautiful ending. So check that out.
It's very hopeful and very promising to anyone that's experiencing infidelity or has experienced infidelity.
All right. So we out of here, folks. Have a great Thursday, rest of your Thursday evening. Have a fantastic weekend. And there is a possibility that we will see you next Thursday. God bless.
Bye, everybody.